Good day, guys. Michael Knight here, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the most common scams I've seen while traveling the world for almost the past 10 years. So through this list, we'll start with the ones that are more common, not so dangerous or costly, and then as we proceed through the list, we'll get to the more and more intense of the scams. So the first really common scam that you'll see in a lot of countries is like the dropped wallet scam. So this is, you'll be walking down the street and someone will drop either an envelope or a wallet or something like that, and you'll stoop over and pick it up to return it to them. And when you return it to them, they'll act as if you had stolen cash out of the wallet or out of an envelope. And then sometimes they'll demand that cash back from you, and lo and behold, the amount of money that you have in your own wallet is the exact amount they're missing from their own. And another whole level to this scam is sometimes there's a crooked cop involved, where the cop will, or someone who is acting like a cop and is in on it, will demand this cash back. So if you see a wallet just laying in the street, the best thing to do is you can yell to the person, don't touch it, but you can go, hey, excuse me, you dropped something, point, so they see it, and then just keep walking past them and don't interact with the person. That way, if it was just an honest dropping of something, then they can get it, and you won't be in the situation involved where they could be scamming you. So the second scam that's pretty common is this is in tourist locations. You'll be walking into a square from a little side street in Europe, to a big, beautiful open square with all the architecture around on the sides. And without noticing it, you'll step on some photo that a person has laid on the ground. Now, these are like cheap photos normally that they just print out from the computer, but they'll say, oh, you stepped on it, you ruined it, now you have to buy it. Of course, they were just, setting it up for you to step on to try to press you into giving them money. And so to avoid this, the best thing is, of course, just be cognizant of it. Look out for people laying things on the ground. And if it really does look like just a shitty printout or something like that, you can, tell them like, hey, look, I know what you're doing. This is not worth 20 euros. This is worth maybe €1. I'll give you that. So moving on. Another one is like a fake donations people ask for. So this one I've had many different places. First time was like landing in LA, and someone will give you a flower as a present, and then after they give you this small token of something, they'll ask for money back, right? This is reciprocity. This is, I'm giving you something, now I want something back in return. I had it also in the countries where people come up and they tie little ribbons to my backpack or something without me even asking, giving a little token and then being like, oh, asking for a donation. Because again, they're like, here, I'm giving you something, I'm being nice to you, and in return, I want some money back. So to kind of prevent this, just again, be aware if they go, hey man, I know what you're doing, untie the ribbon, hand the flower back, and just say, no thank you, keep walking, don't get into a discussion. Fake taxis, especially from airports, this is a super common one, but luckily now with apps like Uber and Lyft or whatever, you'll know the price before you order if you take an Uber or Lyft. But sometimes Uber and Lyfts can't pull up to certain airports, so in that case there's usually an official taxi stand in the airport that'll give you a fixed rate. And in worst case scenarios, if you're out on the street at night, for some reason you can't use Uber, you don't know a number where you can call and get a fixed rate. What you can do is you can negotiate with the taxi for the amount of money that it's going to cost approximately, within a few dollars or euros or whatever, to get to the destination you want to go to. Another really important thing in this situation, when you get in these taxis, maybe take the money that you plan to spend for a taxi out of your pocket or out of your wallet and place it in a separate pocket or separate location. So that way, when you get out of the taxi at the end to pay, it's not like you're opening your wallet and they see a bunch of cash in there and they know they can pressure you for more. Instead, I always be like, especially in the cases on the street when I'm negotiating before, I'll take the cash not out of my wallet, just out of a pocket, and I'll count it out in front of them. Be like, well, this is the maximum I got, man. This is all I got. Can you take me? And then in these cases, the guy really believes, okay, yeah, this is probably the amount, this is all the money. I just saw him count it in front of me. This is all the money this guy has. I won't try to rip him off even later when we get to the destination. In that case, that makes the situation a lot safer when you have to take one of these street cabs. One of the most extreme fake taxi stories I ever had was once I was flying to St. Petersburg from New York with a transfer in Moscow. And my first plane was late, so I missed my connecting flight, but since it was booked together, they gave me a new one for free. And when I was moving from the terminals, from the international to domestic, a guy comes up to me and shows me like this fake ID. He goes, "Oh, I work for the airport." And he goes, "Let me see your ticket." I'm thinking he actually works for the airport. He's there to help me and direct traffic of the late passengers and get them to their connecting flights. He's like, "Oh, you're about to miss your connection." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. It's a new ticket. I missed the original one." He's like, "Follow me." So I start to follow him. And he leads me out of the airport. And then he tries to put me in a cab to drive me to another terminal, which was just a 2-minute walk from inside. And the prices, like to go between terminals, driver had this really nice laminated sheet. And it had the prices, 20 times, 30, 50 times higher than it would actually cost to take a taxi. And there was no need for a taxi. I shouldn't even have left the airport. Should have just walked around the corner to the other terminal. So this guy probably just drove in a circle around the airport once or twice, dropped me off at that terminal. And then by that time, I would actually miss the connecting flight. So I noticed this. I got really angry at them, swore at them. Luckily, they got no money, and I was able to run back into the airport and get my connecting flight with my ticket. But that was like the most, talk about a taxi scam. That one was really elaborate. Another one you got to be careful about is fake bars. Normally, this scam involves good-looking women, but not necessarily. And the way the fake bar scam works is a lot of times, if you're just walking down the street, some girls will come up to you, maybe start talking to you and be like, "Oh, you should hang out with, follow us." And they'll lead you to a bar, which they're in cahoots with. And this bar will have maybe even 2 menus, like a menu with normal prices and a menu with crazy prices. And you might not even notice it, but the girls might be ordering their drinks off the crazy price menu, like $100 per drink. And normally these girls are always in cahoots with the bar. And sometimes the guys, even when they get the bill at the end of the day, and it's like thousands of dollars. And normally there's also 2 guys sitting in the back of the bar that are muscular dudes you don't even notice them until the end, where they come up and they're the ones pressuring you and even walking you to an ATM to get the money out. So how do you avoid this? I mean, the number one thing is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So if some really good-looking girls are coming up to you and trying to flirt with you out of nowhere on the street at night in some random city and then bring you to a random place, yeah, you probably should not go. What you should do in that case is like, "Actually, we're going somewhere else. You're welcome to come with us," like to a place you know. Yeah, the worst case, the best case is maybe you just get robbed. The worst case is, you could be drugged and beaten as well. Which I've know people who this has happened to. And for me personally, I've never been robbed this way, but I've definitely gone into places where when I'm new in a city that I haven't been before, and since I've seen this scam, actually, I've been in a place and watched a scam happen to tourists before. I just got out of there quickly, and I was like, "I'm not paying for anything," and they're like, "Then get the hell out." And I was like, yes, thank you. I will go right now. And that's maybe happened to me twice where there was a little bit of pressure on me, and then the third time I watched this happen in a place to other people. Another thing you should do, a way to avoid this, is always ask for the menu, check the prices first, and pay for every drink one by one. Don't just give your credit card for a tab to them. And then, especially if letting someone else buy drinks on your tab, this is setting you up for an insane amount of bills, especially if they already have your card or if they have your information. But if you just ask you the menu, check the prices, buy one drink at a time, especially when you're in a new place for the first time, that's the safest way of preventing this. Like I said before, this doesn't always just happen with good-looking girls in bars. In China, this is like a tea scam, right? So some people be friendly to you, some tuk-tuk driver or whatever, like, "Oh, come to this tea house, have a tea with me." And you go to the tea house, and then you get an outrageous bill for some tea. So this scam can happen, or a coffee shop, and the coffee's outrageous price. So this scam can happen in a lot of different in many different ways. But the most common is definitely bars at night involving women leading you a place. And in some cases, they just people set up Tinder dates, right? And the Tinder date, that's the most efficient thing the woman could do, right? They do a Tinder date with you, tell you to meet there. You meet them there. You get some huge bill for hundreds of dollars. The bar splits half the money with that person who brought you there as a kickback, and they make enough money in one day as they would normally in a month of their local salary. Another one you have to be careful about is fake apartments. This is actually the only one on this list where I've lost money or been taken advantage of, where I didn't catch it before it happened. And this was like, you're looking for an apartment last minute, you're in a city, you're using one of the local websites they have. And in this case, I had a local organizing it for me. So they didn't even know I was a foreigner, and that person was speaking the local language fluently. And of course I was like, you really want it, you have the scarcity mentality, you really want this apartment. And they call and they're like, oh, you got to transfer a deposit, or pay them a deposit, but there's people in the apartment now, so you can't really look at it, so just pay the deposit. Then you pay the deposit and you never hear from them. And likely the listing online was actually a fake listing, and the apartment doesn't even exist. They just stole the pictures from somewhere else. But on top of this, more recently, I was looking for an apartment in a new city, and they actually brought me to the apartment, and I looked around. It was beautiful. The price was like really reasonable for how nice the apartment was. And in that case, they had the documents, to sign the papers, but everything was just like way too organized, and they were really pushing to sign and pay the deposit. And I know like the number would have been changed and things like that, or the locks would have been changed or something, or more likely the people signing the contract wouldn't have been the real owners, so there's no legal recourse. So they would just be like, no, you signed it, paid a deposit, but we actually are right not to let you in because the real owner didn't sign this paper, so this contract is worthless. And a lot of countries don't have the same type of protections and property rights and things as the United States or European countries have. So, you give them money, your money's gone, you're not getting it back. So you got to be really careful about that. And finally, and this is probably the hardest one maybe to avoid potentially, is just crooked police officers. A lot of countries, police officers are way underpaid, and they are looking for bribes very often. Hopefully, in some cases, maybe you broke the law, you're speeding in a car, or you did do something, and they're just going to try to get a bribe from you rather than take you into the office, and this might save you both time. In this case, it might actually be something it will be simpler and quicker for you just to pay a 20-euro bribe than be taken in for doing something. But in other cases, if you're like really sure you didn't do something, you just gotta have to know your rights and just make it seem like, oh, I don't have it. I don't have my paperwork. It's in the hotel. My wallet's in the hotel. We have to go to the hotel. Just make it like you have to take me there. You have to make it like a bigger deal where it's not like they're just gonna get money and leave. It's gonna make it more work for them, and they won't really seem that it's worth it. But this is one of the hardest ones to get around, because worst case scenario, they could plant, an illicit drug or something in your pocket and then really make up all these false charges, and getting out of it or preventing it can be quite difficult. So the best thing to do is just don't break the laws in some country where or just in any country really, like follow the rules, and don't be loud at night, don't be shouting, don't be attracting attention from either criminals for one thing or cops who might be crooked. And that's probably the best way to prevent it. All right, so that concludes my list of common scams that I've seen in the last 10 years about. And if you guys have anything else that you can add to them, or common ones that you've came in contact with during your travels, please leave them in the comments below. Talk to you soon.